Welcome to the Developing Dads podcast, episode number 42. Today we're going to discuss everything about setting priorities. So, yeah, I'm awful at this, Gordon.
Oh my word! I was letting you in it. You started off all right, but then I'm just
It's like,
why'd you suddenly? Is it like it's like you're like a rabbit caught in a headlights as soon as I turn
Yeah.
the thing on.
I don't know, I can present to lots of people in a business format and do cool presentations and stuff, but I just struggle with a podcast intro.
Well, here we are. Yeah, this is the Developing Dads podcast. We're on episode number 42, so we're getting ever closer to that 1 year's worth of podcasting fun and games. We've both been again just trying to get these podcasts in. It's all my fault, really, Neil. I can't say that it's your fault.
No, I've got although I do go out a lot, most of my evenings are free. Gordon's just gallivanting and filming lots of stuff.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I guess I'll get into it in a minute, but we are both, it's a Wednesday night because I think we're trying to get ahead of these podcasts somewhat and catch up to what we were. Because normally we're like 2 or 3 ahead so that we're not chasing our tail on like a Sunday night or a Sunday to make it. And there's that just, it feels like, I don't know about you, but you know when you've got pressure to do something, it's less fun.
Oh, without a doubt. And it's almost like, what's the point of doing it? So hopefully we can get a second one recorded this week. Would be good.
But inevitably, like, I think I don't know if we discussed it on the podcast, but the whole kind of like consistency beats perfection over time, I guess. And we've been very consistent with this every week for weeks. And when you take other podcasts, I mean, I'm not saying we're going to be Stephen Bartlett anytime soon, but his podcast, you know, for a long time didn't actually do very well. It was clearly in a big loss maker and he was just enjoying it. And then suddenly it just spiked massively. And he had all his back catalogue. He'd taken a year to sort of establish his voice. Like Alex Hormozy talks about that, where he did a podcast for like 3 or 4 years, every week or something. I think he was releasing something, or 2-3 times a week he was releasing a podcast. And then only now, you know, some 5, 6, 7 years later is actually doing something. So, like, I'm not suggesting that this is going to be anything like that. But at the same time, it's, even with a struggle, even with that kind of like, oh shit, we've got to get a podcast out this week. I don't know. I maybe something comes of that consistency. I kind of think there might be. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, especially if you play the long game. Interestingly, on Steve Bartlett's, I listened to his very first episode when it was first released. I don't know why I was following him. I can't remember, but this was years ago, pre-selling his business, pre-writing his book and all that stuff, before he was kind of a media sensation. And like, it was just, he used to travel the world and he had his phone and he used his phone to record it, and he used to record it when he was like in his hotel room or like 3 o'clock in the morning when he was just come home from the office and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't know, it was quite eye-opening from what a CEO was doing at the time. And, but yeah, when you look at the graph he shared a few weeks ago, it's like 10 or hundreds of downloads, thousands of downloads, and then after like 3 or 4 years of doing that, it grows to like millions.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
If I play the long game, I'm up for that.
Cool. Well, hopefully we can keep coming up with content ideas, because, you know, how much dad stuff we get to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it is challenging. Maybe we can go on to I was thinking of doing stuff like reliving moments in our life. So whether it's my stag do or your stag do or trips to Dubai or just like storytelling or something like that.
We'd also like more guests, but sometimes guests add often friction, right? You've got to like organize them. Some of them cancel last minute. Some of them don't come on.
Some of them don't respond to your messages after committing.
Who knows? So I think we could probably get hotter on that. But at the same time, I quite like the flow we've got. So it's all good. We're actually drinking beer tonight. It's a Wednesday night, and we're actually having a beer each. I've had a stressful week last week. Stressful start to the week. A few things to announce on the pod as we get through it. What are you having, Neil? What's your beverage of choice tonight?
It's just a really simple lager from Bareface, which is Drygate Brewing in Glasgow.
Very good.
Basic.
I'm on a Goose Island IPA.
Good old Lidl, I think that one is, or is it Aldi?
Aldi, yeah, they had like
Aldi,
in the thing. But Goose Island have got a pub in Shoreditch, and it's very good. It's a nice pub, nice beer.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure it's American beer. But they kind of do it like a little brewdoggy sort of thing where they got a brewery and the pub kind of set up and whatever else. But it's nice. It's tasty. Very tasty.
In the Brewdog news, James Watt won £600,000 court case.
From the BBC, yeah.
Wow.
Amazing. I mean, it does go to show that the BBC, although publicly funded, still operates in a fashion that may as well be akin to the Daily Mail at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is kind of shocking, annoying actually, because I got to pay my stupid TV license thing, every bloody month.
Yeah, we don't pay that anymore.
You don't pay it anymore. Have you got people knocking on your door?
No, we haven't paid it since we moved in.
Oh wow!
But we don't watch live TV.
All right, okay. So
we don't have any real. We just got internet TV.
All right, fine. Because you don't watch BBC iPlayer or anything.
No, I consume BBC News, so I don't know if that's probably a red flag.
Who knows, Neil? They got to prove it, don't they? I wonder how many people are now willing to pay the TV license, given that they can watch Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything or YouTube, because you don't have to pay for a license for that, do you?
No, yeah, like I can imagine that there's definitely a downhill in terms of people paying.
So if you get arrested and you're in jail next week, we'll know why.
Anyway, Gordon, without further ado, let's kick off the podcast like we normally do. How's your week been? What's these announcements you've got?
Announcements. What did I do? I looked after Olivia on Monday, which was really nice. That usually flies by. It's surprisingly intense. You're hanging out with someone that you truly love, and she's amazing most of the time. But it's also someone who never reciprocates in any real fashion. You only do what she wants to do. I mean, God forbid she'd just like to just chill out for a minute and watch BBC News whilst having granola for breakfast. But Nana, she wants to, play old McDonald.
Yeah.
Play old McDonald on her thing. She's got also an obsession of Joe Wick's cookbook. I have no idea why. I think there's a baby on the front page and she likes flicking through the pages, but she knows where this book is in the house.
That's hilarious.
So I know exactly what she wants. I'll be on the sofa and she'll be playing with something. She'll turn around to me and she'll grab my hand and she'll want me to walk her to the kitchen. Right? She'll want me to pick her up. So she'll be like, ooh, ooh. Pick her up. She goes into the cupboard. She grabs the handle of the cupboard she knows, and then she points at it, looks at me, and just goes, ooh, ooh, ooh. And then I get her the book, and then I sit her down with it, and she just flicks through this book looking at babies and pointing at things. It's kind of interesting. So, but back to my point was, you're kind of hanging out with someone, that ultimately is extremely selfish, but you love them more than anything else, and it's just tough, isn't it? It's just a tough day looking after kids.
Yeah, and then hats off to the women that do it 5 days a week, or 7 days a week, as the husband goes to work. Now it's not so common, but certainly back in even 5-10 years ago when working from home wasn't a thing, yeah, the mums were just stuck there.
Oh, it's brutal, isn't it? It's absolutely brutal. I couldn't have imagined. I don't know how you coped in lockdown, to be perfectly honest, because that was non-stop. But you get on with it. It's just hard. It's just hard. I
had to turn into a teacher. We were getting work sent home from our teachers. Do this, do that. I'm like, I've got twins, I've got Isla, and I've got a day job.
Yeah, and are you paying me your salary? Yeah. Because you're not doing anything.
I know.
So that was Monday, and then yesterday and today was spent basically helping Ali moving offices.
Even today, wow.
Even today, there was still stuff to move over. It was a lot. Let's put it that way. It was a lot. and yeah, but I won't disclose too many details. But it's kind of the past couple of weeks, I think I've been coming on the podcast raving and shouting, being like, I'm really happy and I couldn't imagine everything being like this, and I'm having a good week, and everything's sort of kicking in, and whatever else. But yeah, basically, Laura's had confirmed today that she's being made redundant as well, and that feels pretty bad, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that R word is pretty horrific, especially young in your career and what she went through and the way she was being treated.
I mean, that's not necessarily something to discuss, but it's, what are the chances of both parents being made redundant in the space of, I don't know, 3 months?
Yeah. Mad.
Like, and that kind of just makes me, because I think I've talked about it in the podcast a lot over the, I don't know, the amount of episodes that we've had, where this designing your life and happiness is a choice and all that kind of stuff. And I genuinely have been waiting probably for a long time to think that what bad shit's going to come along, right? Cancer or death or redundancies and job losses to repossessions to just stuff that happens to people, and it's not very nice. And it's it's largely not in your control to some extent, right? And I'm not saying that we're in that position now, but it just kind of feels a bit like that. We've got cash reserves, like we're happily in a position to do things, but it's also the weight of that comes with it. The emotional turmoil that Laura's going through, how she's feeling, all of that's, and you're being a husband as well, right? So you're trying to take some of that on, and you're trying to, give confidence and reassurance and all of the things that a compassionate and empathetic husband could do. But at the same time, it's hard to watch, right? It's really hard, and yeah, it's just a bit like
rubbish time.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't really have to put a good spin on it, to be perfectly honest, because it's not. It's just like I don't really know what to say or do, and it was kind of nice that when I got made redundant, and although this month's going to be the best month yet, next month's probably going to be very similar. I've signed up a new client on a really good retainer. Like the business side is great. But then it kind of, I guess it throws a cat amongst the pigeons in that it makes you reassess a lot of your life and what you're doing and how you're doing it and what's important and what's not important. And, ultimately the life that we've designed, or the lives that we all design with our partners, is that they also contribute to the bottom line or the turnover of the household, right? The money that comes into the house. And it's also nice to not have that entire burden on your shoulders. Of course, you've sort of gone through that for some time now, but it never gets easier, I can't imagine.
Yeah, that whole single income thing is maybe for another episode, but I guess near the start, it was a lot, and I still go through moments, especially recently with the fucking ridiculous government and what they've just done and mortgage rates, and that does play on my mind a lot. And then me joining a startup and having that shadow of it's not sustainable or it's not going to work out. There's only one income, but I went with it.
Yeah, but for me, we could both not work for probably a year, maybe a little bit longer, and be okay. But that's not kind of what you want, right? I don't really want that. And then there's also there's not just the financial aspect of things. It's also, Laura, what does she want to do? And how do you help someone come up with that? Because you can't really. You've just got to let someone do it themselves. And you and I both know that's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to have mental clarity and understand, well, this is my purpose, this is what I want to do, this is where I'm going to go, this is how I'm going to do things. And then you add a child, and you add your... you realize that that's actually more important, right? That's more important than anything else. So do I go back to work? If I go back to work, what do I do? And then I sacrifice because I want to do 5 days a week,
Yeah, so Rebecca obviously took a massive career, I guess, hit, for a better word, in terms of 7 years or now 8 years not working, looking after kids. And I think it's all great. During that 7-8 years, she's spending amazing time with the kids and raising them and that kind of thing. But we're now at a point where she's doing the bakery. There's still a question and a crossroads: is that viable going into next year, and that kind of thing. And she's definitely going to be in that position where, and I like to help her with it in terms of, if the bakery is not viable and we decide that as a couple, then what is she going to do? What's her career? What's the next 20, 30 years look like in Rebecca's world? What's she going to work as? And it's a big crossroads, and it's a big decision to make.
It is, and it's a tough one. And it's a tough one because I'm quite decisive. I'm quite self-confident. and I back myself on certainly the things that I know and understand and are capable of doing, which, you know, has its issues at the same time as it has its huge ups. But Laura's not that type of person, so yeah, I'm interested to see how she gets on with it, and I hope I can be as a supporting husband as possible, and not be the bullish type of person that I typically am, and try and find at least a happy middle ground. Because there's an element of encouragement, but there's also, you know, it's not helpful. So I want to try and find that sweet spot for her. And yeah, I don't know. I sorry, I haven't really articulated very well, but I'm just kind of like that sucks, you know. And it sucks as well because when I got the call from Laura, you know, obviously she was a bit upset, and then everyone, you know, there's people around me. There's people around me that I don't really want to tell them the news. Like I'm not interested there and then to talk to people. Like it's not, they're colleagues to some extent. Like it's not. I don't need to tell people that. And yeah, it was just kind of like, yeah, it's just crap. Like, so we'll see how that goes. Like I'll probably have some more upbeat news that she's been hired and paid, you know, £1 million a year by some company to do something. But for now, it's kind of like the dust is kind of starting to settle a bit, and you know the feelings are tough. But you know, we'll get through it. It won't be a problem.
Time's a great healer sometimes.
Ah, damn right. And you know, I think Laura's going to be better for it. I think she's gonna move on to things that are bigger and better for her, and give her more confidence and happiness. And I think as well, you know, even the 3 days that Laura was working, because she was kind of working on like a 3-day basis, 2 days off because she'd accrued a bunch of annual leave, that kind of thing. You know, that in itself now allows her to spend more time with Olivia again. You know, because there is that always fear when you go to work, you're missing out on developmental stages and things that are going on. But now she doesn't have to miss out on that, right? That's still going to continue. So yeah, but then we've got to celebrate. It's Laura's birthday tomorrow, actually. She turns 31. So I've organised an entire sort of 3 days of stuff, presents and joyful activities. So it can't be more of a stark difference between today, or certainly the past week, and the next few days. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Anyway, nice. Enough of my woes, Neil. Enough of my dramas and difficulties. How's your week been? I mean, it's only been 3 days since we last spoke, but yeah, it's been all right.
Yeah, it's been okay. I've not mentioned this in the pod, like I mentioned it to you, but I haven't been running the last 3-4 weeks. Which, for if you're a new listener, is not like me. Normally, I'm out most days. But I've got a knee injury or something happening in my knee. So I've been going to the physio through my private medical and been given some rehab to do. And it feels a little bit better, but still not ideal. But I'm still doing weights. I'm still doing cycling. So I'm maintaining my VO2 max and my cardiovascular stuff, which is good. And another one, again, I don't think this is all coming out now. I think because I feel like we rushed this bit, but Ben, for maybe 2 or 3 months, had this weird thing where he's had 3 episodes of it where he can't walk. So he gets a really kind of sharp pain in his groin area, and it's debilitating, and he's in tears, can't walk for a few hours. And it's really not nice to see. And then after that, once that episode's over, he can't walk properly for a few days, and he kind of moans and groans about it and stuff. So that's happened 3 times. So contacted my private medical, got referred to pediatrics. He got x-rayed, blood's taken, and got the results today. Bloods are clear, but there's something that's showing up on the x-ray. So he's going to have to go back in to see what that is. So yeah, a bit of uncertainty around that. There's still no kind of, they're not naming anything and they're not kind of speculating yet, but yeah, it's just joys of having young kids and these things. And another downer, but yeah, the mortgage stuff and like the financial markets and the interest rates is, I guess, playing on my shoulders a little bit. I think I mentioned a couple of podcasts ago, I was doing some research in terms of, is it worth getting out my mortgage now? I've got April, so October, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 6 months left of my mortgage just now. $2,000 to get out of it. Is it worth doing that and just fixing for another 5 years at 3.4%, or seeing what the interest rate does? So yeah, that's playing on my mind quite a lot. Because I for some reason I've got it in my head that they're going to return to 2008, 2007 rates, which was like 12-15%.
2008 wasn't 12%.
No, okay, maybe it was 2000.
That's like the 90s or something, Neil. That was back in like our parents' day. It was like 14%, I think.
Yeah.
You know, Dad, I think, almost couldn't afford his mortgage. Like, almost had to hand the keys back.
Yeah, so I remember you had to get a job like cleaning pubs or toilets or something, just to make ends meet. So yeah, like I guess that goes through my head in terms of what is the worst case scenario.
But I think we discussed this before the pod. We were messaging backwards and forwards about the potential of it, and I guess it's kind of like it's stuff that school doesn't teach you.
Yeah,
annoyingly,
yeah.
like annoyingly. But it's like it's what you have to do. Sit down, Neil, is rather than like messaging me backwards and forwards, sending me a graph and whatever. The best thing to do in that situation, in my eyes, is to work out like best case, worst case, middle average scenario. So if I cancel this mortgage now, it costs me this much. It's also, this much over my normal base rate that I'm paying now per month. What does that look like extrapolated over 5 years? Plus the fee that you have to pay for a new mortgage. It's not just the cancellation fee. It's also the 725 quid you'd have to pay for that fee, for that thing. What does that look like against the, if that's the best case scenario, potentially? And then what's the worst case scenario? Sure, it might cost you an extra £400 a month compared to what we were just discussing, versus what's the middle ground? Like, those are all the kind of things, like, potentially the rates could go up to 5 point something %, but maybe they don't. That it's about timing and management and what scenario is the best one that I can potentially foresee. And that's it. Like, I wouldn't worry about it.
To a point, but then I don't want to be stuck in a high interest mortgage when I had the opportunity to fix.
Sadly, you are going to be stuck in a high rate mortgage. It's just how high is it going to be? It is like, if you compare during the pandemic or just before just after the Bank of England reduced the base rate during the pandemic to 0.5%, I was remortgaging. Right? And I remortgaged onto a tracker mortgage and it was 0.69%.
Yeah, that's mad.
Yeah, it is. Like, and then at the end of that, I fixed in for 5 years. I think mine's 1.9% or something for the next 5 years, and that's not up until 2026 or something stupid. So, like, it's just time. Like, it's just luck and timing, right? I couldn't have predicted that. There's absolutely no way. But at the same time, right now is what the rate is. If short term, if you're remortgaging in sort of April aspect of things, what does that look like? Okay, what's the best deal I can get? It's going to be a high rate mortgage. It's going to be higher than it's probably been for at least 10 years. That's just, you just got to have to deal with it. Like, I might have to deal with that in 2026.
Yeah, I know, but there's an opportunity to soften the blow.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the thing is, you can't necessarily know exactly what the Bank of England is going to do in terms of base rate, right? You've got to guess. So you got to go with what data is out there right now. You create those scenarios and you go, okay, which one am I willing to take the risk on? Because at the same time, the rate that you select now, you could be £2,000 worse off. Could be.
Yeah, I know, because I can also fix a new rate in January and not have to pay £2,000. So.
Exactly. Like, So what the best thing to do is to like speak to that mortgage guy that I sent you, Matt. Fantastic. He'll give you a straight answer to it, and your bank. That's it. And then you have to make this shit decision, not being a financial advisor or having studying economics or whatever, right? You just got to do the best or worst case scenario.
Indeed. Anyway, that's also
or just sell it, Neil, and live in a tent.
Yeah.
Take
away all my equity in the house.
Imagine that. Imagine all the equity you've got and you didn't have kids and you could...
I can't imagine not having kids, but I can imagine the equity I've got in the house.
No, I couldn't. I woke up this morning. So Olivia's at the grandparents on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. or Tuesday and Wednesday this week, certainly. And then she's also at the grandparents Thursday to Saturday. So she's with Nana,
Wow.
Nana and Gramps for 5 days. But anyway, me and Laura, like obviously Laura didn't go into the office today. She worked from home, and I went into the office. But either way, I didn't start till 10, so we slept until 8 a.m.
Wow.
And
Beautiful.
it felt amazing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, but it was weird. It was weird. Like that wasn't the normal, right? That wasn't the thing that we'd normally do.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a week coming up. Is it next week? 2 weeks? Where the kids are going to Skye. And I'm not going to have 3 kids for 5 days.
Is it just you on your own?
No, Rebecca will be here.
Oh, look at you two. You'd be little lovebirds in the house. Swanning around bollock naked.
Yeah. Stressing about mortgages.
Right, yeah. What a life, eh, Neil? What a life. Cheers to that. I'm going to
Spreadsheets.
open up my second beer.
Wow. You working tomorrow?
No, mate, Neil. I told you I'm going on holiday. We're off on. We got. I won't say it out loud because Laura's probably listening. But I booked us an Airbnb in a remote location in the UK.
The UK. So it's not England.
The UK.
Yeah, but you just anyway. That's my week. Just
all right. So
easy.
we're both having some time.
Adult life, dad life.
Today's episode, we are going to sort of talk about setting priorities and or prioritizing things. Like how do we do them? What kind of system are we using? if we even use a system whatsoever. And I don't know how, like, sometimes we sit down, we take notes for these, so how we discuss them and whatnot. And Neil's kind of set out a bunch of things on, goals and ambitions and his own ones, I'm assuming, his list of stuff that he wants to show as his priorities. Whereas I guess I've kind of gone down the route more of how do I prioritize, or what would be a best fit to create priorities. I could probably go through some of my priorities, but there's a good book by a guy called Simon Sinek. Have you read it, Neil? Called Start With Why.
Not read it, but I've read lots of his stuff.
Yeah, he's on Stephen Bartlett's podcast a couple of times quite recently, and it's really, really good. And what I'm trying to work out is I don't think I've ever sat down and worked out like a personal why. I've kind of thought about, and it's maybe stealing slightly from Simon's idea of it, but it's like inspiring others to some extent. Or inspiring or enabling others to help them, I don't know, financially, education-wise, supportively with, talking to them and whatever else. But fundamentally, I love helping people realize their full potential. Be that paying for my children's private education if I can, because that will fund them, that will help them no ends as they get older and as they go into like jobs and working and all that kind of thing. Because private school, you get less pupils in a classroom, you get more time with the teacher, so you learn better, you get access to different types of people that perhaps have different perspectives on things that then may help you get in a better university, yada yada. Maybe it doesn't. To like, I don't know, just sitting with friends and listening to them and trying to help them decipher what they're doing, how they're doing it, maybe giving some thoughts on some of the experiences that I've had, to funding some things, like trying to help people start businesses perhaps one day or run those businesses, etc. So I guess that was a personal one. And then I was also thinking of like my professional ones over the years. The most recent one that I had when I went through some sort of branding thing and I was going through a bit of a crisis on what should I do, how should I do things. It was talking about how to help 1 million people find the benefits of exercise, something around that. And I thought that was really cool. And I think I still probably subscribe to that to some extent. And how do I, do that? And then it also sort of, the overriding arc of it kind of fit nicely into when I was first personal training, I set up a motto of like inspire, motivate, and achieve. And that was that why, those whys, all of them directed me in some way into choosing how I would do things. Like when I was a personal trainer, I expected to inspire people. I should look like a personal trainer, act like a personal trainer, train like a personal trainer, eat like a personal trainer, like be someone that inspires other people to do things, like lead from the front. And then the motivate bit was ultimately like present myself when I'm training them in a motivating fashion. Like, don't stand there on my phone. Don't like not be present. Don't like sit down during sessions. Like, really be involved in that coaching aspect of things. Like, motivate the client to want to train and train harder. And then ultimately, my job was to help them achieve something. You know, be that lose weight, lift more weight, feel better, like whatever it would be. I think often that helped me like drive what was important. You know, what was important for me as an individual professionally, what was important for the client individually. So yeah, have you thought about like your overriding why? Like, if I was to say you, Neil, right now, what is your personal and professional why? Like, what's a personal why? What's a professional why?
Yeah, is this podcast now turning into what's our why? Setting priorities.
But that's a priority, right? But that helps you set your priority.
Yeah,
like if you don't know why you're doing something or what you want from that thing, then how can you set priorities? You can't do that. Like, you can't just go, oh, I need to wake up and breathe.
Yeah. So I think mine is both. I think it's both the same for personal and business. I think maybe that's why I don't know, I'm in a pretty good position in my life, but I think making a difference or making a change. So when I look at that in my work, I'm helping organizations deliver change better, manage projects better, make more efficiencies using technology, all that kind of stuff. And that's making a massive difference. I can like see fundamentally that our product is now stopping people creating manual reports, saving hundreds of man days a year creating manual reports. It's an easy
what's your
measure.
What's your company why?
What's our company why? Oh, just make change better.
Just for potential future advice for anyone.
Powering the wave of change. Right.
Well, that's a brand message. Yeah. Is it not a why? Like, why does your company exist? Like that if you're working in a career, if you can make sure, and especially as a manager, Neil, if you become a manager and you're managing people, that's something you should be communicating every touch point with your team, right? Is what are you driving towards?
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously two lenses you can look at. There's the business lens where making as much profit as you can get.
Sure, but people don't work towards that. People don't.
Yeah,
people aren't like motivated by something that is like
the
money.
reason people join us is because we're going to organizations looking for efficiencies, whether that's reducing the amount of people they have, to using different technology, to getting rid of their manual paper-based processes and making them more profitable, making them leaner, so yeah, I guess that's the why. And then that kind of flips into my personal one, which is, like I have a vested interest in Isla in terms of her homework and her and making a difference with her education. So like I make it a point that we do something at least once a day. It's reading, maths, writing. Like in my office, if you're looking, I've got alphabet lines and like number lines, and yeah, so that's like trying to make a difference in their lives as early as possible. So what kind of best practice I can distill on them? They see me exercising in the mornings, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, making a difference.
So what do you do to make a difference?
I mean, that was some of the practical stuff. So like focusing on Isla's schoolwork, making sure she's actually doing it, making it enjoyable, getting books that she enjoys reading with me, that kind of thing. I don't know where to go with that.
Okay. Because if you're making a difference, like how are you living by that, I guess? You know, like if I said my thing was, you know, inspire, motivate, achieve, or helping 1 million people realize the benefits of exercise, you know, I could probably extrapolate that into a few different things, like the inspiring thing that I just went through. But let's say I want to help 1 million people realize the benefits of exercise, then that can be through actively one by one personal training someone. It could be coaching someone online. It could be hosting a podcast about health and fitness that reaches 1 million people. It could be a YouTube channel.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I guess for me it's just living the life that I want them to live. So like keeping fit, eating healthy, enjoying outdoors, just living a wholesome life, I think will hopefully make a difference in their childhood going to adulthood. So living how I want them to live.
Okay. So being the example, I guess.
Yeah, and like that actually dovetails quite nicely into what Lewis said to Rebecca. Was it yesterday? 2 days ago? That he can't wait to be a dad.
Really?
He's
Why?
4.5. Well, he sees me.
So he's like, I see my dad. I can't wait to be a dad. I don't think he quite realizes what it means to be a dad quite yet, Neil.
He definitely doesn't, but
I'd hope so.
he's like my shadow. Like if I'm doing anything, like lifting weights, he went past Tesco. We were in Tesco a couple of days ago, and we went past some dumbbells that were bright colours. I know he wants them for Christmas. So
Wow.
he's definitely, he wants to wear my boots, so to speak.
So what about Ben and Isla? Why don't they do that as well? Are they just not quite as keen?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely keen, but not as keen and up for it as Lewis. But, and this is, Rebecca agrees with this, but they're all three of them are my shadow. So if I'm in the house, they'll navigate to me. They always want me to put them to bed. They always want me to take them to school. Rebecca does a phenomenal job, but they've just kind of, and I think for Isla, I think that the distance I had with her when I was working in Edinburgh, I didn't see her for 9 months or just weekends, and kind of that relationship really took a turn. I think she's almost scared to lose me again. I think, I don't know if she remembers, but there's definitely some anxiety there that I feel that it was caused by me working away.
You can't put that on yourself. That's not fair.
I don't know why she's like that though. Like, I guess that's an easy thing to put on. And the boys, yeah, I think they just maybe follow on with Isla. Like, they want attention too.
So, like when I consider the idea of a why to help set a priority, so it's like, well, if I'm trying to help 1 million people understand or enjoy the benefits of exercise, or if I am trying to help people build their foundations, then it should lead to me to, creating actions on things that I'll do, like education and financial investment and my actions. But then I think it's also good to understand what exactly it is you want. If you were like looking selfishly, if you want to be happy, then I listened back to these podcasts just to assess them. And I was talking about, well, if I want to be happy, is drinking alcohol every single night and quantities of it going to ultimately result in me being happy? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
But I've set that want. I want to be happy. Okay, well, what does a happy person do? Or what makes me happy? And then ultimately you kind of build from that. So do you ever think about it like that, where when you set out on a project or you set out to do something, or if you have a priority, do you, does that then help you stop things like perfectionism, or does it help stop you wasting time, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. Like when I want to run this ultra sometime or whatever goal I set, it definitely helps you set your priorities for the day. So one of the things I mentioned is, and it's fitness related, but keeping active. Is it 10,000 steps a day, or is it making sure you do some form of exercise? So right now I can't run. So now I'm jumping on my spin bike, I'm lifting weights in the living room, and just like that still helps me get a little bit towards my goal. It might not be as good as running, might not be as much calorie burns or whatever as running, but I'm still doing something and I'm still going towards that. And I guess that's how I prioritize it. And it helps me communicate that to Rebecca as well. So Rebecca knows that one day, I commit to this year, but we'll see, is I'll run an ultra. She knows that's a priority in my life. I'm quite passionate about it. So she realizes why I'm doing this, why I'm going out for a run at 5 a.m, or why I want to go out for a run late at night when I haven't had a chance, or why I'm getting on the bike. And like, yeah, it helps communicate that even to friends and family as well. Like, it's that realization that, yeah, this is a priority for Neil, so I'm going to,
because it helps you build it helps you be defined. So it helps the people around you understand, well, okay, Neil set out to do this. This is why. Like, why is he doing something? And then also it's because he wants to, based on these things. And it makes it much easier to potentially do it, right? and get it done, because you can also work out the process around that. So it's like, if I want to do an ultramarathon, I want to do an ultramarathon. Here's why: because I want it to be healthier, I want it to be a challenge, blah, blah, blah. I want to be an example. But then it's about a process thing after that, right? It's a process of, well, I want to run an ultramarathon. Okay, well, each day I need to do this, 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 and this. Or each week I need to do this, this, and this. Rather than it being a case of, I quite fancy doing an ultramarathon, or I dream one day of doing an ultramarathon. That doesn't make you do it, right?
Yeah.
When you say I want to do something, I definitely think it probably helps. If we go back to this idea of this podcast, I think my initial start to why I wanted to do it, maybe why I'm wanter, connecting in some way. But the why I wanted to do it was ultimately to have interesting conversations with you, like connect more with my little brother, because we don't really. And most people need an excuse to have conversations, like going to the pub. But you live in Dunfermline, I live in London, so it's not like we go to the pub regularly.
Yeah.
And then, the other why was that, grandparents, great-grandparents, back in the day couldn't communicate with each other. But that continues to drive me, right? And that also then gives me the... And then also the other thing that helped me set this as a priority was allowing it to be a low barrier to entry to get it done. Like, we don't edit these really. Everything's set up. It's ready to go. There's like software that you're using. Like I try to make it as simple as absolute possible. But it's like, I was thinking about it today, was we do this podcast almost in the sense of adopting like a child's mentality. You're doing it because it's fun.
Yeah.
Like children don't do things children don't work. They don't have a mindset of, I have to go to work because I have to be responsible. I have to earn money to pay for these things. A child's mindset is, why are you doing it? Oh, because it's fun.
Yeah, and there's always a focus on making things fun, especially when you're a child. So IELTS homework, it's always got an avenue of fun to it. We're reading a book just now together called The Creakers, and it's all about things that live under the bed and stuff like that. And she absolutely loves it because there's a sense of fun in it, and it makes her laugh. And yeah,
and I think that sometimes there's two mindsets to that potentially. Like, as an adult, certainly, if you turn around to someone and said, just make it fun, you'd have people turn around and be like, yeah, but I'm living on the breadline. Like, how the hell do I make things fun? Like, it's all right for you. You earn enough money.
Yeah, it's free to go for a run. It's free to go for a walk. Free to climb a mountain.
But that's not fun for everyone, Neil.
Yeah.
It's such a perspective. The way I've kind of thought about it is more, adopting a child's mindset to it, where there's literally a freedom of choice aspect. And I think that's allowed me to prioritize this podcast to some extent, where I was just like, I'm going to do it because it's fun. Like, it's a cool thing to do. And it set out a why. And to be honest, with even some aspect of it, would you think that we're continuing to do it as well because of the why that I sold you and you're kind of bought into it?
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of that, and the documenting our lives for the grandkids. Like, I've always liked the idea of journaling. I've kind of gone through peaks and troughs of doing it for a month, not doing it for a month, not doing it. Because I like the idea of my kids being able to pick up something I've written and look at. But having this podcast is an easier way to do it. It's once a week. It's an hour. Journaling's generally every day, or it takes a bit more. There's a bit more effort to it, I think, than this. And I've got somebody holding me accountable. So those things help.
Good. I'm glad. And we're in 42 episodes in, Neil. How about that?
I know. One thing I wanted to kind of touch on is like when kids are sometimes not the priority. So I think it's easy, and it's quite a default for mums and dads to say, my kids are my priority. I'll do anything for my kids. And I think those things are true, but I guess there's long-term priorities and short-term priorities. Is that even a thing? But what I mean is, you've got to be selfish sometimes in terms of, I'm going to go for this run. I should be spending time with the kids, or I should be spending time with taking them to the park or something, but I'm going to prioritize this in my life. And I think that's okay. I think like every day the kids don't have to be the priority. I think as long as in life somewhere they are the priority, but day to day, I don't think every day they should not be the priority. I think you should start prioritizing yourself. I can't remember who said it. You mentioned him.
Lewis Holmes. Lewis Holmes.
There was a guy that said, I don't know if it was him.
Lewis Holmes. He said his priorities set out the idea that health is his number one priority.
Yeah.
His
And then it's
mission is
wife or something.
his mission is his second priority, and then his partner or significant other is about third or fourth on the priority list.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of where I'm getting at is, in order to give them the best life, my kids the best life, I need to prioritize my health.
Yeah, but I think part of it is also looking at something called an asymmetrical risk. You know, the downside of you going for a run is probably higher than the downside of your kids not seeing you for an hour.
Yeah.
Because the laws, Isaac Newton's laws of momentum, once something starts going, it's difficult to stop it. So if you continue that habit of a health providing, if you continue a habit that's health providing, which is ultimately going for a run, then ultimately you're more likely to do that the next time, and more likely to do it next time, and next time, and next time, and next time. But your kid's not seeing you for an hour in that one day. It's probably not it's not as bad as stopping the momentum of doing your health providing habit, I would have thought.
Yeah. And
so when you're setting priorities, it's kind of like looking at the asymmetrical risk. So one leg is longer or shorter than the other. One's a downside, one's an upside. Is the upside higher than the downside? It's probably then a good idea to prioritize it. And if it's a way higher upside, then I use an example of I prioritized changing my life and moving to London. And I moved to London because the not that I knew this at the time, the asymmetrical downside was not that bad. Like it wasn't that bad. And actually the upside was ridiculously high. Like networking to a new experience to working with the best people in the industry, all those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
So, you can do that for everything you do, like going for your run, whatever else, and that can help then set your priority before you do it. So I guess rather than talking about like how we set them as well, what do you think your priority is? Like if you had a number one priority in your life, what is it?
I think it's what I've been talking about. What I mentioned is the kind of health aspect. So,
okay.
Yeah, keeping fit. And like I mentioned this in my notes, but the 80-20 rule, I think I live by, probably, I live by pretty well in terms of my diet and my exercise my diet is 80% good. So varied, green leafy vegetables, protein, all that stuff. But there's the 20% of takeaways and fast food and that kind of thing. And also alcohol and all that. And then there's also the 80-20 rule in terms of my exercise. So I realize I'm not going to be able to give it 100% of the time. And I think I've got to be okay with just doing 80% of what I set out to do. And as long as I get that to that 80%, so if my target was 30 miles this week, if I do 80% of that, I'm comfortable. I'll leave the 20% by the door. So yeah, and I think prioritizing my health has all the benefits of being able to wake up early in the morning, feel energized, be in a good mood for my wife and kids, be able to run around with my kids as much as they can run around, and climb mountains when friends want to climb mountains. I think it's the fundamental foundations of a good life.
Do you think everyone around you is bought into that?
I think everybody around me understands, and everybody around me, I guess Rebecca's the only one that's the closest, but yeah, I think she understands that is a priority in my life, and she gives me space and time to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough.
I think my kids are learning slowly that it is a priority because they see me having my green smoothies, which might be a bit weird to most people, but I fill it with kale and spinach and other random stuff. Most mornings I do my exercise in the living room or come back from a run when they're just waking up. So like I feel I'm slowly molding them into hopefully somebody that prioritizes health and fitness.
And do you think that when I say someone buys into it, does Rebecca then realize that she's not a priority every day? She's not like the number one? Or do you think she thinks it's okay that you don't look at the children and think they are my absolute priority, but actually you putting the life jacket on first is actually a higher priority?
Yeah, so I think she definitely, but I think she realizes day to day it's not a priority, but when it needs to be a priority, then it is. So if one of our kids is sick, or if one of them's gone to hospital or something's happened or whatever, then I'll stop my run. I won't go for a run. I won't go for a run for a couple of weeks if things need to settle down. Like, there's definitely a time and place when priorities need to change, and I think she respects that and understands that I will change my priorities if it's needed.
Yeah, that's true. Like the priorities shift, right? They kind of move around. We've talked about this in the podcast in previous episodes when you've had to move to basically stuff where you had to find a job. Like your health wasn't your priority. And
yeah.
And I definitely say that, you know, I absolutely, I think I subscribe to that type of thing that Lewis Holmes talked about, and I see it and I understand it, and health is probably, it should be my number one priority right now, but it's not. And I think even within the first 18 months of having a kid, your health is not really your priority, is it?
It never was for me. I'm in my 7 years of having kids.
Yeah, but the first 18 months isn't, is it? It's just not. Like, and I think I found that I kind of went through that period of like fighting it a bit, you know, and I think it's fighting with an ego to some extent. Like, I think I was trying to explain it to someone else where when I first just before I met Laura, I reckon my ego was really high. I was very selfish. I was very much an individual. Like, it was about me. It was about my priorities, what I wanted to achieve in business and life, all that kind of stuff. I was very driven. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And that has its side effects in relationships across the board. And, you know, part of me would probably have changed that, but then part of me is like, well, I wouldn't probably be sat here doing what I'm doing now because of that. But then when Laura came along, that chipped very much away at the ego to the point where I accepted that. You're right?
Can you hear yourself?
Yes, I can. I hear myself, Neil.
This AirPod clicked off. Sorry.
Oh, right.
I can hear you now.
We're back on air, are we, Neil?
We're back.
Excellent. So when Laura came along, she actually, you know, basically changed my mindset to the fact that she is, like, her priorities are higher than mine. And that really chipped heavily away at my ego overall, where I knew, like, what she wanted to make her happy was more important than what I wanted to make me happy. And then, you know, kids come along, and that doesn't chip away, that takes an atomic bomb to your ego.
Disappears completely.
It's gone. You mean nothing. And that's basically what happened. And I think I was tussling with that because you're still trying to hold on to some sort of self-identity for a little while when you've had the kid. And it's difficult to accept.
Let it go, Gordon.
Yeah, you do. You got to let it go. And then also the health thing, you've just got to be like, it's done. I've got to support my wife. She's knackered. I'm knackered. House is a mess. Everything's going to shit. I've got to go to work. Like, let's just make it happen. So, I guess that's taken a big hit for a while. Is the health priority?
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's not me to say, but I feel it's okay. But I've got a friend who he says he doesn't listen to the podcast, but I think he might. His name's James, and he's got a 12-month-old and a 4-year-old. And I always feel bad for him because I'm like, oh, do you want to go to the pub and it's really short notice, or do you want to climb this mountain or something like that? Like, he doesn't have that ability to up and go, and I definitely have forgotten that. Like when I had the twins at 12 months old, or even Isla at 12 months old, like I have forgotten that how a big a deal it is to have such young kids, and to have how big an impact it is to your health and your fitness. And he wants to go on long bike rides, but he can't, and all that kind of thing. And I sometimes feel bad asking because there's a realization that you've got 12 months.
Nah, I don't think you should feel bad asking, Neil, because at the end of the day, the individual can say no.
Yeah, true.
You know, I think it's important that people under all circumstances understand that. Like people can say no. They're well within their rights, and never take it like personally, whatever else, because shit happens. But the best thing to do is to ask.
Yeah.
Always. So yeah, like the health thing kind of isn't a priority. And then the Lewis Holmes aspect of like having a mission of some kind. Like, again, I think my mission or whatever the hell that is has always been a little bit kind of like wishy-washy because I don't know how to work it out, and I've been very good at prioritizing doing rather than thinking. Like, I'm very good at thinking on my feet and problem solving immediately, right in front of me. I can come up with a good solution, and I can also probably come up with a pretty good answer to whatever someone needs for within the skill set that I possess.
Mortgage rates, Gordon. What's going to happen to them?
But I did. Hey, mate, you were messaging me. Hold on a minute. You were messaging me, asking me about it, and were my answers unreasonable?
No, but I just want black and white.
Yeah, but you're not going to get that because you need to work out for yourself. Yeah. But that's the trait that I don't have is sat down thinking. You know, for like why can I not sit down for 4 hours and think about my life? What I want. I don't. But I can. Like I can't do that. I find it very difficult. I find it much easier just to go and do stuff and not think about it.
Yeah.
Think while I'm on my feet.
But you probably could, like, if you were CEO of a business, you probably could think of a strategy for the next 5 years.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So like the mission priority aspect, I think I don't know. I'm kind of in prioritizing something specifically like health or prioritizing something like specifically like mission. I just think it's quite tough, certainly in the first instance that I'm in now. And I guess I'm still kind of reverting back to the ideas of those whys that I've spoken about and the wants and all that kind of stuff. And they're quite easy, like, you know. But it's usually day to day rather than something that's probably bigger and better and badder or further or, you know, more progressive. At the moment, it's much more, you know, week to week, day to day, week to week, month to month than it is. I'm working towards a 10-year goal.
Yeah, no, I think that's acceptable.
Yeah, and I guess I'm kind of more in the vein now of like what's the return of investment of my time at the moment? If I'm setting a priority, I'm like, right, you know. Is this better than spending time with my kid? Okay, if it's not, then it's not a great return of investment, is it?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add to this priorities aspect?
Cool. Just, I guess, for any young dads or mums that are listening to this, is like, I think I've said this before in an ending to a podcast, but it's okay for your priority for the first 12, 18 months of a kid to be the kid and to let the house go to shit, let your fitness just disappear. I mean, especially in this day and age, you see all these Instagram influencers and stuff like smashing life. Just know that they've probably got a nanny or they've probably got some kind of help in the background, or they're just fucking idiots.
Yeah, well, there's some bestowing knowledge. Yeah. No, you are right though, Neil. It's kind of, you know, your priorities, the priorities that you set, what you want and why you want them, are entirely your own.
Yeah.
You know, like,
don't be influenced.
Yeah, but it's to some extent like when you do have a kid, right, Neil? People are judging you, what you're doing, how you're doing things, especially if you're really young like you were. It's, you know, like, people can say whatever they want. But if you have a specific why you're doing something and what you want from it, then, like, who's to say that's wrong?
Yeah,
unless you're fucking like Hitler or Stalin or something.
There's a massive amount of nights out that I had to cancel or not go on because I had a 3-month-old daughter or 1-month-old daughter at home, and yeah, who cares what the guys think now? I mean, I probably don't even speak to them. Thinking back in Aberdeen days,
but it is what it is, Neil. Like, if people can't understand why you're doing something or what you want from it, maybe that's your issue of like the way you potentially communicate it. But at the same time, like, your friends and mates have got to be bought into what you're prioritizing. And, you know, it's like, I think I actually find it quite easy especially when I was working specifically, like employed for Ali. I remember, like, you know, late night, it was like, you know, 7 o'clock at night, and they'd be like, oh, you know, you want to have like a takeaway and we can all just sit around and chat and whatever else. I was like, nah, I'm going to go home and see my kid.
Yeah.
But as soon as I said that, everyone was like, fair play.
Yeah, like there's generally no hesitation.
Absolutely not. All right. I think, you know what, Neil? Neil? I'm going to let you finish the podcast because you're going to give it to me in a way in which it's fun and it's spicy and it's interesting. Go on, Neil.
I already did that. I thought we were finishing up with the advice of don't follow influencers. But anyway, thanks for listening to the Developing Dads podcast, episode number 42. Please hit that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever you listen on. We do have an Instagram, but it's not used, so you can follow us, but there'll be nothing on it.
Why is it not used, Neil?
Workflow issues.
Workflow issues. You've got to, seriously, you've got to find a system for it. Right? Find some way to do it.
Okay.
I do everything else.
I create those cover art things in Canva.
You basically do bollocks, right? You turn up, you film the thing, and that's all you do.
You're my assistant. That's into me.
Yeah. That's basically it. So all you need to do is to create 3 reels a week.
Anyway, Gordon's interrupted my sign off, but thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in episode number 43, where we discuss something different, but not decided yet.
Neil's stag day. All right. Thanks very much, guys. Guys and girls, to the 3.5 listeners. Peace.